a short video. Before I start assembling saws, it might be interesting to start getting a picture of the cylinders before they go on the saws. Now, these you're familiar with. These are the Hudzel parts. This is a Hudzel or Farmertech big bore, and you know, it's fairly typical piston. Notice the difference in height on the pistons. That does affect the intake timing. This is a Hudzel or Farmertech 54, and here's its piston. One of the things I like about these is that right there, where the bearing surface or the skirt of the piston rolls into that area a little bit, where the big bores do not. Cross, there's one on there. You know, the casting quality is pretty much typical of the aftermarket parts. Of course, the cross comes with cable rings. You know, that's an advantage, I guess. You know, this is how they come packaged. And this is a highway, and yet again, you see the same kinds of casting and machining issues you see on all the other ones. Be it, well, actually, I have a cross one over here. You know, the intake on the cross. This was on the highway, and that's a Hudzel 54. It's a Hudzel big bore. They all pretty much vary. You know, I've seen some pretty nasty ones. I've kept a couple around to show the definition of nasty. On the cases, you know, what I've been doing, this saw here has the OEM seal. This one here, done what I've done with most of mine, and that's just poked the crank right through the as delivered seals. And I've been using these from time to time, you know, these gaskets, and I got these mainly for the heat shields for underneath the muffler. But I figured since I got them, I might as well start using them. So I've used them from time to time. I'm not really sure how to make this an interesting video because, you know, this is just raw data, and my table is packed. My shop is packed with work because we've been doing stuff around the house trying to get the siding in the shop done and all that, so I really don't have a good workspace. So all my surfaces are getting cluttered with jobs and cluttered with projects. And this one's no exception, which is one of the reasons why I haven't been putting out a lot of videos. One of the things that I do like about the highway, cross is about the same by the way, is the way the plating is. One thing I noticed is on the highway, the actual intake port is something that's going to need some die grinder work. It's quite small. I don't know if you can see that. Here's the, as compared to, say, the Hudzel, but also as compared to the Cross 54 millimeter. And the other thing I find interesting about the highway is the way the exhaust is. Look how square that is. There's a Hudzel. Let's look at it this way. See if you can see in there. Look how straight across that top is. And the cross-sectional area of that is actually a little smaller than the Farmertech one as well. Easy die grind to work. The transfers, they'll wash. The finish on these is a little nicer than Farmertech's, but I don't know. What I plan to do, and I'm not quite sure how long it's going to take me to get to all these different steps, is try these as delivered first, and then take this one and basically do what I do to the Farmertech's and clean them up a little bit. I have a sort of a recipe for the intake port and the exhaust and things like that, and on the transfers, and see how it runs first as delivered as compared to, say, the Farmertech and these hot rod 54 millimeter crosses, and also just the standard 54. This is the 54 millimeter Farmertech. We're comparing the ports to the 54s. You know, they're not the most symmetric of ports. '54, Highway 56. But as with all these parts, there's no panacea. They all have areas where you can work on them and make them a little bit better. And I think part of the question I want to get to in my own mind, and this, I don't have an answer, that's why I'm going through this whole process, is to try to quantify what can you do with just a standard 54. You know, you come with a kit. Now anything you do past that, like getting a highway or a cross or even a big bore Farmertech, you're spending more money. And I guess what I want to try to do is say, okay, lowest cost option is just take one of these and run it. What do you get? Now I've got a couple like that where I've tweaked them just a little bit, and I'll use those. This one here is going to get a little more modification, but it costs nothing but elbow grease to modify this one. You know, what do you get? I think you'd be surprised. The damn things can be made to run. This is $30. All right, do nothing. What do you get? Do something. What do you get? You know, add a little bit of area to the transfers. You know, what do you end up with? And here's, you know, a more expensive solution, but these are nice cylinders. You know, but yet again, they're not OEM quality. None of them are. And here's one that's engineered to run a little bit faster, but you spend more money. So I can tell you right now, there is no right solution here. All these cylinders will cut wood. And even the lowly 54 millimeter as delivered is actually a very strong saw. And with a little bit of elbow grease, it can be made to be very strong. $30 plus, you know, a little time. More than that. More than that. So I think what it boils down to is this. I mean, I can go through and pick the casting quality. This is one of the cross ones I stuck together. And I kind of like these. I kind of like the concept. I kind of like the concept of aftermarket parts that actually go for performance improvement. That goes along with my motorcycle roots, because there's a lot of companies that got their start in improving the performance of a, you know, particular motorcycle, and it was good business. It was fun. So what Cross is doing is something that I'm actually pretty excited about, and we'll just see how that goes. But you know, you get a lot of the online experts, and they like this versus that. This one's junk, this one's not. And I'm here to tell you that every one of these cylinders, every one of them, will put firewood on the back of your truck and do it in a hurry. There is no bad option here. And the definition of best is going to differ from person to person. If money is a priority, this one here, or possibly this one if you want to do milling. These might be the best solution, even if they're not the optimal, whatever the definition of optimal means, solution. This one here, you know, is it possible it has a longer service life because of the way the plating is done? I can't tell you that. And of course these, the promise is not only do you get them consistently good, but they run consistently better. Now, we'll see how that plays out. I'm not going to tell you how that plays out. I already have a, but it's still interesting. Now, I think this bottom in here is going to get the highway, and then I'll have the highway in the cross. I've already got a good strong 54, and I've got a couple of strong 56 millimeter saws. And then this one here, one of the fellows that works in the house actually had bought one of these kits. Actually, it's something that's beginning to show up common. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm not going to build the kits for people. I'm not in the business of selling complete saws. I get questions on that. I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is if a guy comes with a set of cases, I'll put them together for him and make sure the seals are right, make sure the cranks are centered and things like that. But that's about as far as I'm going to go with these. Now, I am going to point out a couple things. I did point out what I like about the Pharmatech 54 millimeter piston there. But here's the highway wrist pin clips, and I like those better than typical ones I get in the Pharmatech kits. You've all seen these. I like these. And I've seen people swear up and down that it makes sense to take off a little bit of mass. I don't know. It does, but I haven't seen a failure yet on them. One thing I'm glad to see is I no longer see those goofy split rings I used to get from some of the Chinese aftermarket ones. The Pharmatech rings actually begin to make sense. You know, they're actually decent. The ones I got for cross are caber, so that's even better. But any one of these you can get caber piston rings for. And the highway rings, I like them too. So, like I said, I can sit there and pick at the castings and pick at the plating techniques. You know, do you like the, as Bob calls them, the measles, or do you like the cross and the highway top ends that look like that? You know, you can argue that till you're blue in the face. One thing is, I'm not as interested in cutting the hard spots there with my small boring bars. I might be with a arbor. You know, some guys like to drop the cylinder an awful lot and then raise the switch band up and then do the porting. Those guys make a living doing that. I don't. One thing I have to mention, because it's of interest to me, when I cut bases of the cylinders on the Huskies, sometimes I got to be very careful about that flange thickness. Look at these guys. You don't have to worry about any of these. You know, the spill design, you know, what a rugged design. Sorry, Bob. I just like these damn things. A younger version of me would have so much more fun, because I could actually take advantage of one of these really built. Oh, I do have one more cylinder, and I don't like doing this. This one right here, I thought, I had high hopes that this might be back to the square-based ones that I had originally gotten from Pharmatech way back, what, year and a half, 2 years ago. So I saw this on eBay, and it looked right. It had the right numbers. I bought them. They were like 30 bucks. I'm all happy, and I get this. That's not a 56 millimeter. That's a 54. Buyer beware. Nice looking casting. It might be a great running saw. You know what I'm saying? But look at the size of the transfers on those damn things. I mean, as compared to any of them. That's what I liked about this style casting on the first ones, was that was really wide, and this section of the casting was wider than the other one. See it? So I'm still hunting. But look at that. You know, the highway might have that beat too. So I'm still hunting for these 56 millimeter cylinders of this style, and I have not found a source. Because that's what I have on the saws that you see in my videos from a year and a half, 2 years ago, is these in 56 millimeter, and they are strong, and they have survived. So I just don't know how to replicate them. Anyway, sidebar, beware. These things are labeled as 56 when you buy them on eBay. When you get them at your door, you're going to be very disappointed with them. Oh, did I say I like all of these? I like these 54s. I like these Farmertech 56s. I like these highways. I like all 4 of those. This is the only one I don't like. Every one of those right here, you know, if they come at this level of quality, if they don't, send the damn things back until you get a good one. But I like these, and I like these. They're all good. There's no bad stuff here. You know, when you get them where their quality is correct. Anyway, I just want to make sure you understand that I don't see a huge win on any of this stuff. They're all good. So here's some of the highway stuff. Notice the wrist pin clips. And notice the package that the rings came in. This with the caber is the one that came with the cross kit, but that's what came with the highway. Same little box. I'll tell you what, those rings, they look an awful lot alike. Does that mean that highway has cable rings with all their kits too? That's a question. I don't have the answer. But I just found it interesting that the only difference between the appearance of this box that came with the cross top end and this one that came with the highway top end is one has some stickers on it and the other does not. I also want to point out that the highway stuff came from Taiwan, and the eBay store was Saw Cylinder in Taiwan. Very colorful box. Very well packed. And by the way, it came in a hurry. And the cross, along with the gaskets and OEM gaskets, by the way, too. If you look underneath there, there's an OEM pack, along with another 9-pin. And that came from this guy. Another little detail that I need to point out, and you know, it may or may not make a difference, but if you look right there how thin the sealing surface is. You know, the Farmertech is right there. It's pretty thin. The 54s have a lot, well, they have more material simply because they have a smaller bore, unless they get counterbored like this sucker did, but still that one has more than either one of the other 2 cylinders. That's one of the reasons why, while I understand intellectually that the copper gasket is all it really needs, I try to do a little bit extra, and to this point in time I have not had a base gasket leak. So, you know, one thing I did observe when I was digging through these things, again, here's your Farmertech part, and like I said, I think that's a pretty decent casting. On the highway, you got an incomplete fill up there. You see that? But look at the sprue versus the sprue on the cross and the one on the Farmertech. That, my friends, is very predictable. You know what I'm saying? while a lot of people malign the farmer techs, and they keep telling people, oh wow, they're the lower end of the quality spectrum. No, they're not. They're different. They're not OEM. In the last couple of years in my life, they've proven they work pretty well. So be a little careful on people with a brand loyalty or a place loyalty when they buy their stuff. And you know, you pretty much got to look for yourself. But like I said at the beginning of this video, every one of these cylinders, every one of them is good. And like Cross, both these parts here are an attempt to improve performance over OEM. And I kind of like that concept. I had mentioned it about Cross, and I think it's not fair not to mention that both of these, the 56mm Highway and the 56mm Pharmatech, were inspired by the concept of adding performance to, you know, one of these MS660 saws. I didn't get into them that way. You know, to me, it was a saw puzzle. But now when you step back and look at this globally, there's more to this subject than what I was bringing to the table by building, you know, box saws. Now the other thing that's changed since I got into this is the concept of kit saws. I think that's kind of cool for the you know, that's cool for the enthusiasts. To me, they all work. They're all fun. My next set of projects are going to be based on OEM cases. I have a OEM 036 I want to build. And I guess the next question for me is, compared to trying to figure out what the best box saw concept is which of these parts can be folded into the OEM world and actually will not embarrass themselves. And I can tell you right now, these won't. I don't think either one of these will as well. They may not compete with a brand new OEM top end for these saws, but when those saws have gotten to the end of their service life and you're looking for what's next, all three of these I think are legitimate options to take something that's past service life and bring it back to life, which was the genesis of my whole concept back, what, 2 years ago now. So anyway, this is really the end of the video. But yeah, don't believe all the hype you hear. They're all aftermarket. They all have their warts. They all work. Bottom line. And they all work pretty well.